Hello, and welcome to Cataclysm 101. This is going to be an extremely basic guide aimed at onboarding brand new players. If you're a veteran, there probably won't be anything new here for you, but if you've heard of the game and wanted to give it a try, hopefully this video can demystify some of the most basic parts of the game for you. Before we get started, let's talk about the version. I'll be playing the experimental release of Cataclysm Dark Days Ahead from May 21st, 2022. Most of what I'll go over here will probably still apply whenever you happen to pick up the game, but as this is an open source game in constant development, everything is subject to change. There's a link to the download page in the description. I'll also put some notes there for people who may still be playing in the 0.F stable release. The tips I've got here are by no means the only way to play the game, and there may be better or more efficient ways to get things done. This is a very open-ended game, and there's no right or wrong way to play. Feel free to sound off in the comments if you have alternative advice for the newbies. I'm sure they'd appreciate it. Before we begin, I'll open the settings menu. The game defaults to the Ultica tileset and Sepia map memory, and here I've switched those to MSX Auto Plus and Darkened map memory, as in my opinion these are a little bit easier to read visually. I'll also be playing the game at 2x scale for recording purposes. We'll start a new game, and as we don't have a world generated, it'll take us through that process first. We're going to press the Tab key to advance through these menus. Shift Tab takes us backwards through the menus, but for now we'll be leaving all settings on default and just tabbing to the end. Once we're finished, we'll go to the character creation screen. First up, we choose a point buy system. This is simply a matter of preference, but for now we'll go with single pool as it's the simplest. Our default scenario is evacuee, and that's what we'll be going with. Scenarios influence your profession options and starting location, as well as sometimes introducing new conditions or challenges. Evacuee is the most basic scenario and usually starts you in a safe place with some basic resources to get started with. For profession, we'll again go with the default, survivor. Survivors are totally average humans with no special traits. This profession starts us with a set of clothing, a messenger bag, a book of matches, a smartphone, and a pocket knife, all of which will make our life much easier. The next tab is background. This includes hobbies, addictions, and other things to spice up your choice of profession. For this guide, we'll press /, which brings up a search menu, and type street. Press enter, and street fighting will appear. The street fighting background gives us ranks in the melee, dodge, and unarmed combat skills for fewer points than it would cost to buy them in the skill menu. On the abilities tab, we'll set our strength and dexterity to 10. These two stats will do a lot for our effectiveness in melee combat and just make it generally easier to get through battles alive. Here we come to the trait tab. On the left side are positive traits. We'll scroll down here and pick up night vision, which uses our 2 remaining points. Center tab is negative traits, which could be taken to give us more points, but we'll skip that this time. On the right, we have cosmetic traits. These usually have no impact on gameplay, so pick whatever sounds fun. We'll skip the skill tab. Skills are often a poor investment in character creation, as they can easily be raised during gameplay. Our Street Fighter background is the exception because it will dramatically boost our survivability at very low cost. The final tab is just an overview of our character. Here we can enter a name or leave it random. We can select our gender, change our height, weight, and age. Gender currently has no in-game effects, but age and size do actually affect your metabolism. That's a bit too advanced for this guide, so we'll leave them at their default values for now. Once we're ready, we'll hit tab, and off we go. The game begins in an evacuation shelter. We're here in the center, and we can use the numpad keys to move. If we press X, we can look around. The first thing we should note is that there are some different color filters going on. The area around us is in grayscale because it's dark in here. Just beyond our vision radius, we'll see this darkened area. That's our map memory. We've already explored there, so we remember the terrain, but we won't be able to see any items or enemies that were standing here. The grainy black area is unexplored. We can see these computer terminals are giving off a little bit of light, and if we navigate over to the NPC, we can get a look at them. We can see that they're wielding an AR pistol and are neutral, ignoring us, and aware of our presence. We could talk to this NPC, but for now, we'll leave them alone. They don't care about us, so we don't have to care about them. As we move around, there are 2 important numbers to keep track of. One is time, which is visible here because we have a smartphone in our inventory. The other is the move counter. This number represents how many hundredths of a second our last action took. As you can see, horizontal and vertical steps cost 100 moves, or 1 second, while diagonal steps are about 1.5 seconds. If we press the @ key, we can open up our character sheet. We went over most of this stuff in character creation, but at the upper right we can see our speed panel. Currently, it shows that our speed is 100 and our base move cost is also 100. So we're 100% as fast as an average healthy human, and it takes us 1 second to take a horizontal or vertical step. As you play, you'll want to keep a close eye on this panel. A lot of factors in Cataclysm can negatively impact your speed. To name a few, we have thirst, fatigue, pain, injury, drugs, and morale. These factors can quickly compound to badly slow you down, and in a fight, that means you'll be taking more hits for every action you take. This can and will create a snowball effect that leads to your character being overwhelmed by enemies that are normally much slower. With that in the back of our mind, we'll step over to these cupboards where items suddenly appear. If there are unlocked containers adjacent to our survivor, we'll be able to see the contents. There are various emergency supplies here, but for now we'll press G to grab one emergency jacket. They're in a pile here, so we want to use the arrow key to navigate to the jacket, then press the number 1 and the right arrow key. If we hadn't pressed 1 first, we'd attempt to pick up the entire pile. Press Enter to complete the action. We'll see in our message log that we picked up the jacket. Now we can press I to view our inventory. The upper section is everything we're wearing. The lower sections are for things we're carrying. It's important to note that items we pick up aren't just disappearing into an abstracted inventory. Everything we have is either carried, worn, or in a specific pocket. The downward arrows here and here indicate that our messenger bag and jeans have things inside of them. If we highlight either item, we can see that contents are highlighted as well. Our jacket is in our messenger bag. Everything else is in our jeans. Let's scroll down to the jacket and select it with Enter. That opens the item menu, where we can see a description of the item, its stats, and several actions we could possibly take with it. We'll highlight the Wear option and press Enter. In Cataclysm, as in real life, there are 4 basic priorities for survival. In order, they are shelter, water, fire, and food. First off is shelter. Cataclysm takes place in New England, and despite the fact that the game begins around May 19th, it can still get dangerously cold, especially at night. On the sidebar here we can see our current warmth. Thanks to our clothing and the fact that we're indoors, we're comfortable. The evacuee start gives us this nice shelter. The temperature will stay warmer in here and there are no monsters, but we can still do better. If we head down to the basement, we'll find that the temperature is much more stable. Furthermore, wandering enemies are far less likely to come all the way down here while we're asleep. So we'll grab 2 emergency blankets from the cupboard upstairs and set them on a bench in the basement. This will be our bed for now. If we sleep on these, we'll automatically use them for warmth. We can also wear them, which greatly encumbers us, but makes us even warmer. Try that if you're getting messaging that's saying that you are shivering too much to sleep. With that, shelter's handled. We have a warm, comfortable place to sleep indefinitely, so let's move to the next necessity, water. We have a bottle of water in our inventory, but it's so cold today that it's actually frozen. There are more bottles in the cupboard that haven't frozen yet, but they won't last us long. We're going to need a renewable water source. There's no shortage of water outside, but we'll probably need to boil anything we collect. Therefore, we move on to our next need, fire. Here's our first big project. We will need firewood, a place to burn it, and a vessel to boil water in. We don't have any of that at the moment, but the tools are at our fingertips if we know where to look. First, we press S to smash a cupboard. It'll probably take us a couple of tries. Once it breaks, we will press W to wield the plank that was created. The plank is a slow and ineffective weapon in combat, but it does 26 bash damage, which makes it good for breaking furniture. With our plank in hand, we'll head back to the lockers and smash just 2 of them. This will create 2 pipes, which will allow us to make a makeshift crowbar. We press the ampersand key, then press / to open the search menu. We type crowbar, then press enter. Because we have 2 pipes adjacent to us, the recipe should be available. However, it's too dark to craft them here. We could open a window, but an enemy might see us. So instead, we'll stand on top of one of the pipes and press \. This button's extremely useful as it causes us to start dragging whatever's in our tile along with us as we walk, even collecting new items along the way. We'll use this to haul all of the items here down to one of the lit computer terminals, paying attention to the time as we go. As you can see, the process is slow, but it's much more convenient than picking things up one by one. It's best not to do it if there are hostiles around. Once we're adjacent to the computer, we have just enough light to work. Press / again to toggle hauling mode to off, then press ampersand and repeat the previous process to find the makeshift crowbar. Select the first option to drop our plank so that we can work. After a quick 5 minutes, we'll have our crowbar. This is only a makeshift crowbar, so it can't jimmy doors and windows, but that's not what we need it for. This will be our first weapon and a simple tool for deconstructing furniture. Press the _ key to pull up the martial arts menu. Martial arts are incredibly complex and take a lot of time to understand, but thankfully one of the best martial arts is also the simplest. Scroll down to select Brawling, which was automatically unlocked for us thanks to our melee skill, then press Enter. Using the Brawling style allows us to automatically block enemy attacks and sometimes do powerful special attacks of our own. Brawling works barehanded and with all weapons, and there are no drawbacks, so it's always a good idea to be using it when it's available. We can set it now and forget about it for the rest of our run. Now that we have a weapon and we're set to brawling, it's finally time to step outside. There are no guarantees in Cataclysm, but with our stats, starting skills, and our weapon, we should be able to deal with most of the day 1 enemies that we'll run across in the immediate area. We press C to close the door behind us to keep our NPC friend out of trouble, then survey the area. Our compass warns us that there's a Kraken and 2 amoebic molds nearby, but these monsters are not hostile, so for the moment we'll ignore them. Outside, we see some pulped human corpses with a little bit of loot. That's a lucky find, but chances are you won't have these on your doorstep, so we'll ignore them for this guide. Pressing M brings up the map. Your map might look a little bit different depending on your tile set and whether you've got the graphical map enabled, but in any case it shouldn't be too hard to understand. What we're looking for are roads so that we can find an abandoned car. We don't want to get too close to towns or other structures as these may be overrun, but if we head up and down the highway here, we should spot a wreck sooner or later. And just like that, we bump into an RV. What you'll find on the road is random, and you may have to walk a fair distance before you spot anything. We'll start smashing this damaged portion, as that'll be easier to collect materials from. We could hit any part of the car really, but this saves time. When the part finally smashes, you'll see a couple of pieces of debris scatter around. The items we want are chunks of steel and lumps of steel. We need 2 chunks and 1 lump for this project. Once we've got what we came for, we can head back to the shelter. We go back to our crafting spot, press D to drop items, and drop any chunks and lumps. Open the crafting menu with ampersand, open the search menu with /, and type screw. This pulls up the screwdriver. We have all the components, but as you can see here, we're missing a tool. We need something with hammering 2 to get this done. Our crowbar has the hammering quality, but only 1 level of it, so what we want here is a better hammer. Search again with /, and this time type hammer. This pulls up 2 matches, the short sledgehammer, which we can ignore, and the makeshift hammer. That's what we want. So what do we need? The component list shows us that we're missing thread. There are a few ways to get this, but we're going to do it by deconstructing some of our clothing. We'll press D to drop items and drop our long-sleeved shirt. We have a jacket, so we don't really need it. Press B to pull up the deconstruction menu. You'll see options for deconstructing and cutting up a few items that are at our feet. Deconstructing is a careful process where you try to take a thing apart without damaging the components. Cutting is a quick hack job that can salvage a few scraps. Pulling the shirt apart would take 12 hours, so instead we'll simply cut it up. This should salvage a single set of patchwork cotton clothing parts. Press B again and disassemble the clothing parts. This will produce 1 rag. Now we can press B again and disassemble the rag to turn it into thread. This gives us 80 thread, which is just short of our goal, so we'll have to repeat the process with our socks. Now we finally have the thread we need to make our hammer. Press ampersand to open the crafting menu, / to search, and type hammer. Select the makeshift hammer with enter, then choose a lump of steel or a chunk if you have more than 2. It won't matter for the final product, but remember that we still need 2 chunks for our screwdriver. With that done, we need to smash another cupboard. This will give us a new plank as we used the last one making our hammer. Press / to haul that back to the computer, then press ampersand to open the crafting menu again. / to search for screwdriver, then enter to craft. With that done, we can now deconstruct furniture. Head across the room, open a window for some light, and press * to open the construction menu. This menu is mostly for placing and removing furniture items in terrain. Press / to search and type deconstruct. It's grayed out here as we still need a prying tool. Oops, our crowbar must be back in the computer pile. Let's go back down and press W to wield it, then come back and repeat the process to deconstruct one of these benches. This takes a bit, but it's quiet and it gives us a full complement of nails as well as a plank. Great! Now let's head over and deconstruct 2 of the lockers. If the lockers are stuck in the dark area, you can press G to grab them and drag them out into the light. Deconstructing them in this way yields items that we can't get from smashing them. Sheet metal. We need 2 pieces of sheet metal for this project. With that done, press / to haul all the items back to our spot by the computer. Now we want to press ampersand to open the crafting menu, / to search, and type Brazier. This will allow us to beat the sheet metal into one of those big metal bowls they use in fire pits. Once it's done, press W to wield the brazier and bring it downstairs. We want to set it up near our bed. Press A to open the Activate menu and select the brazier. Its Activate action is to deploy it as furniture. This makes it ready to contain fires. Note that it wouldn't be able to do this if it was just lying on the ground as an item. You have to use a key to set it up first. With that all done, we now want to get on the roof. Let's press W to wield our crowbar and head over to this locked door. Your layout may be a bit different than the one we see here, but there should always be a locked door somewhere in the shelter. Our crowbar is too crummy to lever it open, but we can certainly bash it down. Press the S key to smash until we get through the door. Behind the door we find a ladder. Climb up it with the left angle bracket and we'll be on the roof. There's a standing tank on the roof. If we smash it, it'll just break into scrap metal, but we have a screwdriver and a crowbar, so we can deconstruct it via the * menu. This yields 4 standing tanks, and that's what we're after. Wield one of the tanks and climb back down the ladder. Our goal is now to fill this tank with water from outside somewhere. Let's press M to open up our map. If you live near a lake or river, you can easily get water from there. Swamps are salty and dangerous, so avoid those. In our case, we have a nearby forest. This isn't ideal, but it'll do. On our way to the forest, we spot our first hostile monster, a Cerberus. This is a mutant 3-headed bear and definitely not something we're prepared to handle. We can press V to open the View menu and Tab to switch between items and monsters. This will allow us to scroll through a list of every monster we can see so we can quickly know where they are and what they're doing. The Cerberus is pretty far away to the north and it hasn't seen us yet, so we'll just head west and not get any closer. Forests are dense and cluttered, but they often aren't very populated. We could still be surprised and killed by a cougar or something, but we're more likely to find water first. It'll be in single tiles, either as a pool of shallow water or a recess. We spot the latter pretty quickly. We approach the water source and press E next to it. That'll prompt us to examine the tile and ask if we want to collect the water. We select Pour into Container, and then we choose our tank. Now we have quite a bit of water. Because we found a recess and not a pool, our tank isn't actually full yet. It's not necessary, but we'll wander a bit until we can collect some more. Note that there are also pools of deep water, but these are salty and should be avoided. With that done, we press M to check out our map and navigate back to our shelter. Downstairs, we'll press capital D to directionally drop our water tank. We want to put it on the brazier. Since it's made of metal, we can actually use this to boil the water as well as store it. We press W to wield our crowbar and start smashing some of these benches. This will get us some firewood. We wind up with 22 planks, which should be plenty. We press the asterisk key to open the build menu, then / to search for firewood. We choose to place a firewood source on our pile of planks. This means that as long as we're awake and within 6 walkable tiles of this fire source, we will automatically refuel any fires we have going, even if we're busy with another task. Now, finally, we can press E and target the brazier. This will prompt us to start a fire. This brazier will safely contain the flames so they don't spread and burn down our shelter, and since the water tank is actually sitting on the brazier as well, it'll automatically boil if we wait long enough. Press Shift / and choose to wait for 1 hour. We can see that we're automatically refueling our fire while we wait. If we press X to look at the fire, we can see that the water in the tank is now hot, but it's still not clean. It's a lot of water and it takes a long time to boil. We press Shift / and wait in 30-minute increments, checking the water each time. After 2.5 more hours, it's finally clean. Now we need to get it out of there. Press D to drop our crowbar, then W to wield the tank. This will pick it up without burning us, which is good because fire is obnoxiously lethal. Now we can just drop the tank on the ground and drink out of it whenever we want. This water is clean and safe to drink, and it will stay that way forever. Let's celebrate by pressing capital D to drink our fill. On the right, you can see our hunger and thirst indicators. Thirst slows us down, so it's good to make sure we're never thirsty. If the game warns you that you're getting too full but you're still thirsty, just stop and wait 5 or 10 minutes with Shift /. You'll absorb the water in your stomach pretty quickly and be ready to drink more. Now we can press E and select the brazier to extinguish the fire. Remember that we have limited matches, so this might not be what we want to do. You'll just have to use your best judgment and ration your supplies appropriately. Head upstairs and check the cabinets, lockers, and your loot pile by the computer again. You should find paper wrappers containing protein rations. Here we find a stack of 24 of them. Press G, scroll down on one of the rations, and press E. This will open its description. As you can see, the bars have 400 calories and a decent amount of vitamins. Most characters burn 12 to 1600 calories a day just sitting around doing nothing, so we'll need to eat 3 or 4 a day just to maintain our weight. We can get by with half that for quite some time if we need to, but weight loss will eventually lead to starvation. The bars are bland and unappetizing, but they are fuel, and that's going to keep us alive while we try to figure out what to do next. With that, we've satisfied our 4 basic survival essentials. We've also learned how to craft and deconstruct, we've made a few basic tools, we've learned how basic inventory management works, we have a warm place to sleep, and we can start thinking about our next move. FEMA was supposed to send buses to pick up the evacuees, but somehow I don't think they're coming. And that's all for today. If this guide helped you or there was anything I didn't fully explain, please let me know in the comments. I'd like to do a few more of these videos, and any feedback will likely improve the quality of the next one. If you're interested in more Cataclysm content, I've got a screenshot LP going on the Something Awful forums. Check the description for a link. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.